that Krishna himself has tried the utmost to avert war. He himself had gone as a messenger to the court of Duryodhana and tried his best. Now all that is behind. Before war, the right action is please try to prevent war. War means a lot of suffering. On the battlefield, now you cannot act like a peacenik. Now you have to be an eagle, not a dove. Now you must fight.
And I was thinking of even today's generation of youth in comparison to, say, the Upanishad like Nachiketa, where he's obviously he's being offered all of the great material sensual pleasures. And as you said, rightly, while negating them, he says, I'll get to them later, but this is what I really want. What is stopping the modern youth mentally, maybe emotionally, or maybe it's an external thing? What is the main thing, do you think, is the big blockage that is stopping him in this consumer capitalistic era from becoming a Nachiketa, or even being attracted to a Nachiketa?
See, fundamentally, the blockage is much the same what it was 2000 years ago or 4000 years ago. Fundamentally, it is much the same thing. Greed, ignorance, fear, lust, envy, basic things. But what is the form it has taken in the last 100 years? The form is of an abundance of industrial goods. You see, these senses are always looking out for something because the mind is always unfulfilled. So the senses are always looking out to somehow gratify themselves. Can I bring something to the mind that the mind would be satisfied with? That's the role of the senses. Now, what the Industrial Revolution has done is that it has put a great abundance of objects at our possible disposal. You have to go out and buy those things. And the self-interest of the production industry, goods, services, lies in more and more consumption. So not only must goods be produced, the mind of the consumer must be modified in a way that it becomes amenable to, rather greedy for, the consumption of those goods. So you have continuous bombardment of consumption-centric messages on your senses. And I'm not just talking of overt advertisement. I'm talking of the very subliminal theme of this age. You look at anything or anybody, you find happiness equated with consumption. And when happiness is equated with consumption, then it becomes very difficult to inquire. That is one thing. The second thing is the frustration or disappointment of youth with religion. The only thing that saves man is pure religion. And religion has been corrupted to such a lowly point over the centuries that there is no way that a youngster of this age is going to accept religion. And that's when I'm saying that religion is the only thing that can possibly redeem us. So our solo redeemer has been corrupted and snatched away from us. In the name of religion, all that we have is huge bundles of superstitions, traditions, beliefs, and violent ignorance. So the situation now is doubly bad. On one hand, There are so many objects competing with each other to conquer your mind. And they conquer your mind, but they do not satisfy your mind. Conquering the mind is one thing, and contending the mind is another thing. They encroach you, they colonize your mind without really bringing it any true relief. So that's one side. And on the other side, the thing that could possibly give you relief has been taken away from you. So youngsters are either indifferent to religion, and sometimes they actively hate religion. And a tiny cross section among them who has a thing for religion is actually turning bigoted and fundamentalist. So we do not have any truly religious people among youngsters. Whereas the religious mind is our only hope, truly religious mind. When I say religion, I'm using it in a very, very different context. When I say religion, I do not mean the various religious streams. I do not mean the external signs and symbols of religion. I'm referring to none of that. I'm talking of the spiritual mind, the mind that loves the truth, the mind that is sincere about life, the mind that does not want to spend itself in intoxication. I'm talking of that particular quality of mind. That's what I call as true religiosity. And that quality is becoming more and more difficult to find. And I cannot fault the current generation for that. They have been brought to this point mostly by historical chance. What can one do if one is born in an age where within the first 5-6 days one gets to hold a mobile phone, let's say? You are born and the first thing that comes in front of your eyes is an apple, clicking your pic so that it can be circulated over social media. That's how you are greeted into the world. More and more you're just what would be the word? You are just besieged with things to consume. You are encircled, and you cannot break away. It's a chakravyuh. You want to get away from one kind of consumption, the only relief you can get is in then another kind of consumption. Broke up with your girlfriend? Fine, let's go to a bar and drink. So consumption of one kind being offset by the same of another kind. No true relief, but 1,000 avenues competing with each other to waste your life. And you have then ample choice. And this kind of proliferation of choice is then termed as freedom. No? See, I am free to choose. There are so many options available, I am going to be free to choose. What the youngster doesn't realize is that all these options are not really different from each other. You call option 1 as different from option 2 only if they really are not two facets of the same thing. Somebody comes to you and shows you a car from the front, from the side of the bonnet. And he says this is option 1. And then he takes you to the side of the boot, the behind of the car. And he shows you the boot and he says this is option 2. Now please make a choice between these two cars. What kind of fraud is this? This kind of fraud is being played upon us by all the choices that are available to us in life and market. They are different sides of the same thing. It's not going to satisfy us. The car is hot from inside. Doesn't matter which door you enter it from.
Yeah, no, I was just following up with that, where we were talking about consumerism and how consumerism for, say, a car or a house, versus, say, some sort of maybe a lustful more desire, um, on the surface may seem different, but at the end of the day, you are seeking something that is more, um, say, a temporary source of happiness. You are still clinging to things that you feel will bring that high, but you realize that, oh, it only lasts this much. Oh, this one too, maybe this will do it, and it only lasts this much. And we go through the cycle today of constant, kind of like a rat in a wheel. We think we're going to go farther, but we're actually going in circles. Um, Having said that, one of the things that's very interesting in the modern landscape that you pointed out was the idea that, even a lot of concepts that may seem open-minded and progressive, as, oh, you have so many freedoms today, right? Oh, wow, today we can be so open-minded and accept all people. Sometimes that too can become very surface level, right? Sometimes, for instance, I'll give you a couple of examples where, as simple as today, wow, yoga is becoming so popular in the East and especially in the West. And when I spoke to someone who is who's a yoga scholar, I asked him what is going on, in terms of so many different forms of yoga in the West. You have a goat yoga, you have a beer yoga, you have a, hot yoga. What is going on? What is this? That I'm confused. And the answer was pretty simple. And yoga has become a product of consumer capitalism. Period. As much as it's popular, as much as, wow, yoga has come out of the trenches, has come out of the caves, this is what the state of it is today. Freedoms of today, where we see, wow, everyone is being accepted regardless of caste, creed, religion, race. But to the extent where maybe small victories like enjoying holidays, creating national days for something, maybe changing the name of something, maybe removing a statue, as we may see both in India and the States, of some old patriarchal imperialistic, regime. Removing those things may feel like small victories, but is it really? Is it really solving an issue? Is it really getting to the crux of man's spiritual nature? Or are we just enjoying surface level victories?
See, we talked about ego co-opting much of what is given to it for its dissolution. It's like I give you something to reduce your weight, and you somehow eat so much of it that the thing itself adds to your weight. So that's the way of the ego. You give it nectar, it turns it into poison. So that's what the ego has done to yoga as well. And it's not surprising, it has always happened. It's happening not only in the US, it's very much evident in India. Even in India, it's evident even in places like Rishikesh, that are the capitals of yoga education. They call Rishikesh Yog Nagari. And much of what is being taught there in the name of yoga today is just very useless and very vacuous. You put some thought into it and you will be astonished at the stupidity of it all. So, and yoga is such a nice thing to feast upon, no? The ego relishes it, because the initial stage of yoga, Hatha yoga, is something that indeed does bring some good to the body. No spiritual benefit to the mind, but it brings a dollop of goodness to the body at least. And the ego is always body identified. So if the body is being helped, the ego is happy. If the body is being kept fit, the ego is happy. One has a yoga carved body, and that helps you in gaining Facebook likes and Instagram followers. You can market yourself as the sexy yogini now, and that's so cool. The ego loves it, and that would always happen. I dread the day when even Vedanta can become popular this way. It's just that the nature of Vedanta is so austere that so far nothing in history has succeeded in co-opting it, in integrating it into the body of general thought. But even that might happen. The possibility is there. One could call himself a Vedanti and come up with interpretations of Vedanta that simply foster more and more consumption. That's possible.